kick in here. And there we go. All right, so we are recording now. Let's get going. So yesterday I talked for most of the time during the lesson. It was a more information heavy session, so I talked a lot, okay? But today's session is you reading, it's you finding detail and responding to the prompts, mainly that first theme that we have, the role of mentors and family, because we see that come into play today. So our objectives today, we're going to create a double bubble map. I know it's a dumb name, but it's a pretty effective way to compare and contrast people or things or whatever you're doing. It could be ideas, it could be colors, whatever. And since in general, what we're doing in this book is comparing characters or comparing the two Wes's, contrasting them, and then evaluating how those differences shape them, the double bubble will serve you really well in those first two steps, comparing and contrasting, and then you have to make the connections about how those differences impact them, okay? You can see right here that we're not just, this isn't just some abstract thing we're doing. We're looking at the page, pages 10 and 11 for the author, and we're looking at a few more pages, pages 27 to 33 from which is the advice that Wes gets from Tony. How we're going to end today is evaluating this advice. Basically, who receives the better advice and how do we see that advice impacting the boys already, okay? So all I want you to do today is just tell me what you see, okay? Because remember, analysis is, it's not some deep thing. It's not some hidden thing. It's talking about the relationship between things. Okay, you could be talking about data points. You could be talking about two people like we are today. Okay, your response today, I want you to practice using claim, evidence, and warrant as well. Okay. So if you need help creating a double bubble, we're not going to watch the video, but you can go back to it and watch it. You can stop at 123. It gets kind of goofy after that. You don't have to worry about it. What you're looking at here in the picture is just an example. You have the two subjects, bats and spiders, so that's what's being compared. In the middle is how they are similar. And notice what I like about this chart is that they use verbs. So bats have a superhero, spiders have a superhero. It's kind of a dumb comparison, but it's true. Spiders eat insects, bats eat insects, spiders are black, bats are black. That's not universally true, but it's close enough. The difference is spiders can fly, bats pollinate fruit, bats are mammals, spiders are poisonous, spiders are arachnids, and spiders spin webs. So keep that in mind when you're working today with your double bubble, and because this stuff will help you get rolling in terms of the analysis. All right. Here's where you get to work. Okay. Now that you know how to use the double bubble map, compare and contrast dominant male role models for the author and Wes. Pages you should focus on are right there. Okay. Maybe you can go back. Same thing. Page 10, page 11 for the author. Notice on page 11 it goes to the section break. So when you're reading and you see the paragraph stop and then there's a big break between that one and the next one, that's called a section break. Okay, it's not a new chapter, it's a new section. We're reading pages 27 and 33 for Wes. This is really where Wes hears his first important advice from Tony, and that's what I want you to take notes on. What does Tony tell him? What does Tony do? Okay, while you work today, because notice we only have three parts. We have the compare and contrast, and then evaluate. Okay, so the live lesson today is a little different. I'm going to give you time to work in class. I'm going to stop at one point and see how people are doing with this. And then after that, you guys are going to be free to work on this part. At any time, if you have questions or you need advice, you need some direction, drop in here and ask me. But again, we will stop at some point and we're going to talk, well, we're going to stop in 15 minutes. and we're going to talk about those things. Okay. So what I want you to do now is have your book out. I want you to be looking at pages 10 and 11, pages 10 and 11, and then 27 and 33 for Wes. Okay. If you've already read these pages, this should be easier. All right. Any questions before I let you go? Okay. So in 15 minutes, I'm going to start talking again, and then I'm going to call on a few people, see what they think, and then you're going to be free to go. Okay. So I'll see you then. All right, we got about 30 seconds left, so just kind of finish up what you're doing, and then we'll come together, share our thoughts, and that'll be it. You'll be free to move on to the assignment. All right, so let's just stop what we're doing for a minute here. And Connor, so we're comparing and contrasting Wes and the author. All I want you to do is tell me something you saw. Tell me something you think is important from the text. Tell me some details you think are important.
Both male figures wanted the person that they influenced to succeed in life.
Okay, good. So that's absolutely true. Okay, so Tony's got issues, but I think you nailed it right there. Tony does want Wes to succeed. Okay, we have to make that clear because we have to understand that to see how it goes wrong too. Okay, so that's a good point. So we already got one comparison point. Both Tony and the author's father, who's also named Wesley. That's just too many Wes's. Both Tony and Wes's father, or both male influences, want their son or their brother to do well. Maya, what did you see? Thank you, Connor.
I think that like with the advice that they both give the Wes's, the difference is between the author's father, he actually practiced what like he preaches, but Tony doesn't do that. And so having like the example for the author greatly impacts him more than Wes and Tony.
Okay. And so thank you, Maya. So we're seeing a contrast here is that the author's father practices what he preaches while Tony doesn't. Okay. So in this difference, we have a place that we have a thing we can talk about. Okay. So you can talk about how, I mean, there's just so much to talk about here. In regards to, Tony tells, but he doesn't show. Okay. And while the author's father isn't there because he died, he has these examples that he can remember. So we can talk about when we're evaluating the mentors, the impact of watching people do things rather than just hearing them. You can talk about, the specific way that the author viewed his father, and the specific way that Wes views Tony, because Wes does envy Tony, or not envy Tony. Wes wants to be like Tony. He admires Tony. And so there's that capacity, is that Wes isn't trying to be bad. He's just trying to be like Tony, even though Tony's telling him to not be like him. Okay. Let's get one more here. Lily, what did you see?
I saw that the author's father is like more like calm and collected. Like
Okay.
when the author was like about to get like yelled at by his mom when he was younger, his father stepped in and made sure that like he didn't get hurt, that like the situation was handled calmly.
Okay. Is Tony calm? John, is Tony calm?
I mean, I think, like especially it says like on page like on the 27th, he like more like frantic with it, like kind of like it doesn't like come naturally to him trying to give this advice that's kind of contrary to what he's used to, and he's like really trying to make sure that Wes reaches his point, and I think he like gets frustrated when he doesn't. So I would say he's probably not nearly as calm. Like it doesn't come across as calmly as the author's father does.
Okay. And pay attention to, and this isn't just you, John, I'm just talking to everybody. Pay attention to how the author describes Tony. He describes him as like he has this face where like nothing surprises him. I think he calls it like an ice grill or something like that. So Tony appears really like mellow isn't the word, but he's not an excitable person. But we also know that he, is violent at the same time. And so if you're looking for comparisons and contrasts, there's kind of like this really superficial contrast between, well, both Tony and Wes's father are quiet, but that's about where the connection ends, okay? Because Wes's father is just kind of gentle and very thoughtful, whereas Tony, he's experienced so much that he's kind of numb to it at this point, okay? And, if you want to take that a step further, I mean, just think about Tony's age. He's still a teenager. Wes's father is a grown man. He has children, and Tony's a kid, and Tony is Wes's mentor. Okay. Tony needs a mentor. Okay. I mean, Tony needs a mentor, and Tony is the mentor. So keep that in mind when we're talking about resources. Tony and Mary are doing what they can for Wes. But when you look at it, it's like, they need help too. Okay. So keep that in mind especially when you're comparing Mary and Joy, who is the author's mother. Joy gets help. She gets help from her parents. Mary gets a little bit of help from her parents, but not nearly as much as Joy does. Okay. So when you're doing these comparisons and when you're doing these contrasts, and then you're evaluating how these differences impact the two Wes's, be really specific with your details. Okay, draw the details right from the text. Don't generalize, draw them right from the text, and then try to explain, how are these things alike, or how are these things different, and how do these differences impact each Wes? All right, so you are free right now to go to, oops, I went on the wrong one, to go to the third part, the evaluate. And this is the assignment today, okay? So there is a Schoology discussion about being a man, quote unquote. Okay. The prompt and everything is in Schoology for you. You can go there and answer it. Be as specific as you can and answer in that claim evidence warrant style. Start with the claim. Okay. Make an arguable statement. Support it with specific words and phrases from the text, and then explain how those words and phrases support your idea. Okay. Remember that the evidence in the warrant, or the evidence and explanation, is just you showing me how you got to your claim. It's like showing your work. Your claim is your answer, and the evidence and explanation is how you got to that answer. Okay. I will be online the whole time. So if you want to ask questions, please do. Please definitely do. If you don't like asking here, you can message me on Schoology. So you have two options. Okay. Last thing, make sure to log into attendance today as well. Okay. So that is it. Good luck.